I knew about the original Auroras for years. Ron St. Germain brought them in to Sear, and I loved them. I thought they were phenomenal. So they were on my list, while I was a poor, you know, uh, assistant that occasionally got to engineer. But I never, was able to afford that jump until and I was about to actually. I was about to buy at least a 16 channel when my buddy said, hold on a minute, if you can wait 2 months, they've got a new one coming. And so that the release of the Aurorain was when I finally had the funds and the level of clientele to purchase that. It's Sear. It's our only converter for tracking, mixing. We stopped using everything else when we installed them. And at home, it's my 90% of it is mixing. I'm running 16 channels of the N into a Neve summing mixer, and printing back into it. And with the synths and any overdubs I do here as well. So it's everything. Every piece of audio that I'm involved in goes through them somehow. Not to sound like I'm patting myself on the back. The new Kurt Elling's newest record, which just won a Grammy for best vocal jazz. That is start to finish entirely through the Auroraln, all the way down to the mastering I did here. All the mixing, all the tracking at Sear. So, and I think that record came out sonically really beautiful. Really proud of that. Oh yeah, Joey Alexander's record that was tracked. That was really beautiful. The Cross Currents Trio, that record came out, I think, very special. That was a really great experience because we didn't record it with the Lynx. We didn't own the Lynxes when we tracked, but we did mix. Well, we did. We revised the mixes after we had installed the Lynx. So the process for that was recorded through the old digi converters with a decent clock, mixed through those same converters, and everybody was still a little unsure of the sonics of the record, myself included. Best that we could work with, it was best of what we had to work with. We did a recall of it, and after we had installed the Lynx, we did a recall and immediately noticed the bottom end just open wide up, just open right up. In the record, I should mention this record is Zakir Hussain on tabla, many tablas, Dave Holland on bass, who is unbelievable, and Chris Potter, who's one of the greatest sax players alive right now, all live in the room together. So it was Dave's sound that was noticed first. It was immediately noticed that the bottom end just was so much more open, so much more clarity to it. The top end the edge was smoothed off. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was smoothed off. It just wasn't being added anymore, and the whole record immediately, we really only intended on recalling a few songs. We ended up printing everything start to finish on the record, and it made such a huge difference. When I A/B the two mixes, it makes me very sad that we used those other converters for so long. We did track a couple I think about 5 songs for Paul Simon. We didn't mix it, but I tracked, I think 4 of them, and one of the other engineers tracked one. Owen, who's also a avid Lynx user and owner. I should remove that word avid. He's Owen, who is also a Lynx lover. But and I think that record came out beautiful. It's how incredibly transparent it is. I've tried a lot of other companies over the years, and I would never put any of them down because everybody's doing their own thing and has their own sound. But what it was for me was that feeling that what I'm hearing when I am tracking and mixing through the end is what that microphone was intended to, send. It's just so honest. I noticed a huge difference in my home rig. That was a big upgrade for me. But when I finally put, we put 54 channels or 56 channels in and out in Studio C, and in hearing, the Sear Sound console at Studio C is this custom Avalon Sony console. That's extremely transparent and low noise, really clean. And that's where I noticed the biggest difference when we installed the 2 Auroralns. It was just everything in that studio came to life in a way that we haven't experienced before. And I honestly, Walter Sear, the founder, who he passed, in 2010, he was on a anti-digital mission, where all we did was analog, and we would sit there and we would compare tape to Pro Tools, and Pro Tools lost every single time. The honesty, the clarity, and the cleanliness of the converters has been just an incredible combination with our console and 300 microphones. We noticed things about our 2-inch or our half-inch tape machine that needed to be a little tightened up, little frequency response issues that needed some help, a little recapping that we weren't quite as aware of with the old Avid converters. I think quality converters help everything, of course, but I think the biggest thing I've noticed with the jazz recordings is the musicians' reactions to it. People just come in and say, "Yep, that's my sound." Yeah, having worked on a specific brand of converters for most of my career and then switching, everything is so much easier. So much sound checks are so much faster. Everything is just, people are much happier. There's something weird in the high end that I just can't figure out. It's a more honest representation of what the artist thinks their sound is, and that makes it makes all of our lives much faster, much easier. And one of my favorite results of that is just the general happiness in the studio. When you're fighting for 3 hours to get that sound, and that it's just it's this incredibly tiny little detail that you're not capturing. That sound check really wears people down. It's exhausting for most of these musicians, and I typically only have 30 minutes to sound check a quintet. Their budget requires me to move incredibly quickly. So if they're spending that rest of the day second guessing their sound, because what they're hearing in their headphones is a little brittle, or there's something just a little tiny bit off, then that's a problem, and it kills the vibe for the whole day. Certainly, my reputation as an engineer is definitely improved. Not saying that I had a bad reputation before, but it's a different. It's been a different couple of years in that it's not just go to Sear because they have the mic collection. It's go to Sear because Chris is there and my record sounded great. I think I had a little bit of that before, but now that seems to be a much more prominent reason, I think, for the bookings that I get. I mean, sonically, the impact is very big. It really is. You know, we have this incredible mic collection. The outboard gear there is insane. Everything that everybody makes plugins of, it's there somewhere in one of the rooms. You know, and I just, like I was saying before, I don't feel strongly that we were capturing everything. You know. Honestly, you know, it's hard to say that, you know, I mean, we've made amazing records over the years. I don't, you know, it's not that everything was ruined before, but I think there's been a very noticeable impact in the confidence of the musicians that come through, you know. And certainly the producers, our regular producers are much more excited about it. And I do still, even after all these, you know, couple of years that it's been, I do still get that occasional comment of like, man, those converters, man, you know, it used to be, man, that microphone, and that's not the focus as much anymore, which is great. And there have been a couple of producers who I've been really fortunate to get to work with over the last few years that would not have come to that studio because of the converters. Some of the more classical oriented clients and some of the extreme hi-fi jazz clients just wouldn't make a record without having to rent converters, you know, and most of the time the budgets aren't there for rentals, so they just find somewhere else. So I've been able to steal a little extra work because it's just a confidence thing where they're looking through our list, they see that, and they're like, great, we're cool. You know, there's nothing holding them back anymore. When I was really, really young, I had just inherited a little cassette recorder, you know, one of those micro cassette recorders. And and I would sit there in my grandma's house. We didn't have MTV. My grandma did. And I would sit there and record my favorite songs, you know, on MTV. And I would always go home and I'd be listening. And I think I can do better. And then the next time I would go and I'd find a little different spot in the speaker, you know, that kind of thing. And I'd find ways to make it a little bit better.